Hey, what's up, guys? It's Anthony Vicino. You are listening to Amplified Impact, the podcast where we learn how to build a better business, invest in real estate, and hyper-focus on what matters so that you can maximize your return on life. Now, today, I want to talk about a concept that took me a really long time to understand, and there's a lot of conflicting information out there. I think this is one of those pieces of advice that you will hear thrown around so much in the entrepreneur land and building businesses. And on the face level, it makes a lot of sense. But I think as we start to unpack it, there's some nuances around this concept that bears some deeper scrutiny. So what are we talking about today? Today, we're going to talk about delegating and outsourcing. Now, one of the best books that I read in 2021 was a book by Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan called Who, Not How. I think as entrepreneurs or high achievers or investors or whatever, I think we have a tendency when we see a problem to look at it and say, how could I do this thing? Instead of looking at it and just saying, I can't do this. This is impossible. It won't work. We tend to have a tendency, people who are high achievers and like successful in life in general, and if you're listening to this, I'm going to guess that you're one of those people, to say not just, oh, this can't be done, but to say, okay, if it could be done, how would I do it? Well, in Who, Not How, the whole concept is instead of looking at it and saying, what could we do? How could we do it? Who do we know? Who could we plug in that has already the experience, the skills, the network, the ability to go in there and do the thing for us? So this at its core is really about outsourcing or delegation and surrounding yourself with a rockstar team that can help you achieve your goals. And I'm all for that. I do believe that our ability to realize success, whether that's in business or life or investing, is predicated on how effectively we're able to work with and through other people. Like case in point, Dan and I, when we started working together, he was coming from this perspective of always wanting to be the one in control and to own everything. He didn't want to take on partners. He didn't want to outsource to third-party management because he wanted to be able to, at the end of the day, say, I did all of this. So there was a bit of ego involved in there. But what he realized at the end of the day is that it's much better to build a very big pie and just have a smaller slice of that than to have the entire tiny little hot pocket, right? And when we think about like Apple or Microsoft or these other companies, like, yeah, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, they had team members, but we don't discredit them for having had team members and for having worked effectively with other people. So like, if you're in that place right now where you're already not wanting for whatever reason to bring on partners because it takes a little bit of luster or the shine or, your ego doesn't get the stroking that you otherwise would want, like, let's reevaluate that because you're probably denying yourself the opportunity to realize some incredible leverage. Now, what's this have to do with delegation and outsourcing and partnerships and all these other things? Is that you hear all the time your ability, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I'm all about building teams and finding partners and finding people who complement your strengths and your weaknesses so that you're not just doing all the time the things that you're really good at, that you're actually finding people who are really good at the things that you suck at, put them into those positions instead of just trying to go and learn and master a skill that you're not inherently great at. Like for me, financials, like I don't love spreadsheets. I don't love Excel. I don't love finance in the same way that Dan does. And so it's not a good use of my time to go and become a master of that thing. And so you hear this advice all the time, who, not how, delegation and finding people to supplement. Now, here's where I disagree, is that I don't think that you can fully delegate or outsource a task until you understand enough of that task yourself to be able to hold them accountable to the results. When you just outsource before you understand anything about the lay of the land, let's say that's marketing or social media advertising, or it's finance, or it's production, or it's customer relations. If you're outsourcing any of these things and you're doing it because it's a complete black box to you, because you do not have a clue what to do. Like you don't know how to run a Facebook ad. You don't know the first thing about branding or what the difference is between advertising and marketing. Like you don't know. So sure, let's go find that SEO shop and that social media manager, just boom, put it into their court and let them handle it. Cause this is what they paid to do. This is what they're professionals. This is what they're specialized in. And that makes a lot of sense, but you can only then hold them accountable to the results and understand if what they're telling you about the limitations or the potential upsides are based in reality, if in fact you understand enough about what it is that they do in that domain to be able to hold them to those things. Because a lot of times we outsource things without fully understanding the breadth and the scope of what's actually involved. And so when that expert comes back and says, well, that's not possible, or this is possible, but it's going to cost you X, Y, and Z. if you have no experience in that range, if you don't have a context for what it should cost or how difficult that task should be or what's possible in terms of this engagement, this reach, then you're going to believe what they say and you're going to be vulnerable as a result. And at the end of the day, when it comes to building businesses, I believe in always mitigating the risk and the downside. And the best way to do that I've found is to be rock solid across a wide scope of abilities and competencies. Now, it doesn't mean that you need to be the marketing guru or the financial guru or the production guru. It doesn't have to be that, but you need to know enough to be dangerous so that when you do bring somebody in, you put them into that seat, that you can hold them accountable to the results that you expect, knowing that they are in fact based in reality, and that you're not just going to be vulnerable to somebody who maybe is slacking or missing their deadlines because they lack the skill. Sometimes it's slack or it's lack. We'll do another episode on that. Like, those are really the two possibilities. Either you're inherently unmotivated, you're slacking, or you lack in the abilities, the skills, the resources to get the job done. So which is it? So that's where I feel is like in the beginning days of building a business, you need to be wearing all the hats, and it sucks. It's very time consuming. It's hard. It's difficult. You're going to be doing a lot of things that you're not inherently predisposed to excel at. And you're going to be wasting a lot of time learning. But honestly, at the end of the day, that learning, those investments that you make into your skill set are going to pay such long-term dividends because you're not going to be vulnerable as a result of your ignorance. And so when is the right time to start delegating? For me, I think it's when you have enough of a grasp, a competency in that task, and you've developed some systems and some theses, a perspective on how you think that thing should be run. Now, we don't ever want to become solidified and concretized into our beliefs and our perspectives. So we need to be open to the fact that we don't know everything and that, an expert coming in is going to be able to help us. But we need to get to the point where we have our own thoughts and our beliefs on the subject and can talk intelligently about it. That's when we can start bringing people in. And if you've already started to develop the systems that you utilize to get certain tasks done, that's even better, because then when you bring somebody into that position, you can just immediately plug them into that seat and they're in a position to either improve upon that system or at minimum just maintain that system and continue doing it at the same level that you were doing. And so that's how I think about delegation. I think we want to resist the urge to onboard and bring in delegate too soon, especially in the life cycle of a business. That means you're going to grow a little bit slower, but in the long term, we're going to be mitigating that risk of ignorance and being taken advantage of. So hopefully that was a different perspective. I hope you got a little bit of value out of this. If you did, I would really appreciate it if you just take some time to just leave a review over on iTunes or go share this with somebody that you think could get some value out of it. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the next episode. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.